So today's our lecture is on nerves from the central nervous system. We have previously studied about cell bodies, about the nerves, what is the nerve, what is the central nervous system, and what is the basic concept of the brain. And the next we are going to study is the structure of the nerve. What is a nerve? What is its structure? And what is made up of? It is actually made up of a bundle of neurons. A nerve consists of numerous neurons which are collected into the bundle. That is known as a tract. A nerve consists of numerous neurons. That is a bundle of nerve fibers that make a tract in the central nervous system. As in the sciatic nerve, there is numerous neurons which are making a nerve. As sciatic nerve, other nerves. It contains tens to thousands of the neurons in it. It means that it has axons of the neurons in it. Every bundle has many coverings of the connective tissue. As we all know that each and everything is covered in some layer, in some membrane for its protection, so that it may be separated from the other parts of the brain or the dead system. So it is separated by the layers. Three layers that is present: epineurium, perineurium, and the endoneurium. As you can see on the slide, three things are present. So the next we are going to study is three layers, which is endoneurium, the perineurium, and the epineurium. These three layers are present in the nerve. What is endoneurium? With its name, we are going to say that we are going to think that endo is something inside, that is internal. So yes, it is something internal. As you can see on the next slide, that there is an image. That image in which you can see three names are labeled: endoneurium, perineurium, and the epineurium. Epi means outside, peri means around, and the endo means inside. So the inside, the delicate layer, is known as endoneurium. It surrounds the individual fiber. The individual fiber is surrounded by the endoneurium, and after that the perineurium comes, in which more than one fibers are covered. The endoneurium is actually what is a continuous layer that is going through the whole nerve fiber, individual nerve fiber. Okay, so after that the perineurium comes. Look, as you can see, 2 to 3 nerve fibers are present in a perineurium. There are many axons. If you can see that in this image, many axons are shown. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. There are 7 axons over here, okay, in one nerve fiber. That endoneurium consists of a single nerve fiber, and after that many nerve fibers enclosed or layered up in the endoneurium are in a layer that is known as perineurium. So the perineurium is a smooth connective tissue which are actually surrounding the bundle of the fibers. So inside it's endoneurium, which is covering all these axons, and after that it is perineurium, which is covering the nerve fibers surrounded by the endoneuriums. So hope this concept is going through your minds. So the next one is the epineurium. That is the fibrous tissue which surrounds and encloses a number of bundles of the nerve fiber. Most large nerve fibers are covered by the epineurium. So according to this, the epineurium is the covering, which is covering the whole nerve, in which there are many bundle of nerve fibers which are enclosed in a perineurium, and inside the perineurium there are the single nerve fibers enclosed in the endoneurium. Come to this diagram. If you can see that epineurium is outside, perineurium is the other layer inside, and in the perineurium there are nerve fibers enclosed in the endoneurium. As you can see, what is in the endoneurium? There are axons, and it is more than 7 to 8 axons inside one nerve fiber, which is in the endoneurium. So, what is axon? What is dendrite? What is a nerve cell? I have told you each and everything in the last lecture, in the previous lecture, that what is axon. So, as you can see, there are axons. There are one axon for a nerve, for a neuron. What is neuron actually? Neuron is the basic structure, basic and the functional structure of the central nervous system. So a neuron is myelinated, or it can be non-myelinated, but myelinated sheath is over the neuron. As you can see in this diagram, there is an axon, and over it, it is a myelinated sheath, and there is some kind of gap which is node of Ranvier. We say it node of Ranvier due to some reason, and the information jumps from the node of the Ranvier to the other node of the Ranvier, so the information travels very fast over it. Is sensory or the afferent nerve. What is sensory? Sensory is from sense. As we can sense the five senses of our system, our brain, our central nervous system, our body is connected to feel the five senses. What are the five senses? Our hearing, sight, touch, feel. Touch को feel करना. And after that, smell. And the next and the last one is the taste. So these five senses over here, which are sensed by our body. So in the sensory or the afferent nerves, these sensory nerves carry the information from the brain to the spinal cord. Okay, these impulses may then pass to the brain or to the connected neurons of the reflex arc in the spinal cord. There are some sensory receptors at the end of the sensory nerves. What are these receptors? These receptors are to receive the impulse which is generated by any change inside or outside. That could be a touch, that could be a pressure. What is pressure and how it is going to be sensed by our body? The pressure is going to be sensed by our body through baroreceptors, which are not included in the sensory or the afferent nerves. As you can see that there is somatic, cutaneous or common senses. What is in it? There is pain, touch, heat, cold. Achha, there are some categories over here. Somatic, cutaneous and common senses included pain, touch, heat, cold. But there is no any kind of senses for the posture and the balance. For other special senses like smell, taste and any pressure, as I am saying that for the pressure there are baroreceptors. So there is no any baroreceptors written over here. Why so? Because it is not included in the somatic, cutaneous or the common senses. What is cutaneous, what is somatic and common senses? It is included in the upper layer in which the pain, the touch, the heat and the cold is going to be sensed. Okay, so after that, so proprioceptors senses, what is it? These actually originates in the muscles and the joints. These are present in the muscles and the joints. Why? To make some position of the body, to enable it a good posture, to enable a good balance, to enable the brain to perceive a good posture. So what is the posture and why it is necessary for us? Because a posture is necessary for us to make walk, to make a run, to do anything in our life, to do any movement. We need some good posture, we need some balance. Without balance we are not able to do any kind of work. So what is necessary to make a good balance, a good posture, a good side, a good hair? To do our work perfectly, we need all our senses to work. As I have told you in the previous lecture, what is hearing? And hearing and balance are connected. How was that connected? I told you that there is some fluid in our air, if you remember that. So it is maintaining our balance, it is maintaining our posture. And it originates from muscles and the joints. After that, the special senses come. Special senses include sight, hearing, balance, smell, taste. These all are the other senses which I was talking about. Touch wasn't somatic in the cutaneous because it was included in the skin. Touch receptors are in the skin, but after that, sight, hearing, balance, smell, and taste, these are the special senses which are included in, what do you say, these special senses. That is sight is from eyes, and eyes has some optic nerves. So optic nerves are passing through the optic chiasma, and it is going to our brain. And the whole pathway from the receptor to the effector, the work of our central nervous system in making our view through the optical nerve. And after that, hearing, hearing and balance are connected, as I've told you before. And the smell and the taste, it is also connected. I was telling you in the last lecture that smell and the taste are connected. If you are not getting the smell, it may be possible that you'll not be able to taste it well. Wow, what a rhyme. So smell and taste are somewhat related. And after that, the autonomic efferent nerves included the baroreceptors, which we were talking about before. The chemoreceptors. What are the chemoreceptors and what are the baroreceptors? These originates in the internal organ glands and the tissues. Because if we are going to feel the pressure, if we are going to feel the chemical, oh no, that is not the feel. That is actually the receiving of the chemical is released in our body. That could be some medicine, that could be some glands, any hormone released by some gland, that could be anything. सो ये जो ऑर्गन ग्लैंड्स हैं हमारे पास और जो टिश्यूज़ हैं इनके अंदर ओरिजिनेट करेगा. बैरोरिसेप्टर्स आर देयर टू कंट्रोल ऑफ द ब्लड प्रेशर. So the pressure is being controlled by the baroreceptors are involved in the control of the blood pressure, as I was telling you before that it is involved in the pressure. Barometer is for some, I guess, measurement of the pressure. So baroreceptors are those receptors which are going to receive the pressure stimuli. What is blood pressure? High blood pressure is a disease that is also called as hypertension. वो क्यों होती है, कैसे होती है, ये एक बहुत लंबा phenomena है, but I'm not going to elaborate it over here because we are not having time. But that is a very common disease, and that is actually the blood pressure. The blood is pumped with more pressure. The blood in the veins is running with more pressure. So there is some chances that it may burst the vein or the artery. So it is harmful for our body because we don't know at what part it is going to be damaged, or it is going to be injured, or trauma is going to be happen. So it could be dangerous. So after that, there is some chemoreceptors that is going to receive the chemical stimuli, and it is involved in the control of the respiration. What is the respiration process? We know that breathing is involved in the respiration process. That is associated with the reflex regulation of the involuntary activity and the visceral pains. नेक्स्ट हमारे पास आता है मोटर और द इफरेंट नर्व. अब मोटर नर्व्स कौन सी होती हैं? वो नर्व्स जो कि ब्रेन, स्पाइनल कॉर्ड या फिर ऑटोनॉमिक गैंग्लियास के अंदर ओरिजिनेट करती हैं. ये एक्चुअली क्या करती हैं? ये इम्पल्स को ट्रांसफ़र करती हैं इफेक्टर ऑर्गन्स तक. मतलब क्या है कि सेंसरी नर्व्स ने सेंसरी इम्पल्स ली, वो लेकर मिक्स न्यूरॉन तक गए, मिक्स न्यूरॉन के पास लेकर गए, उन्होंने आगे से प्रोसेस करके किसको ट्रांसफ़र की? मोटर न्यूरॉन्स को, और मोटर और इफरेंट न्यूरॉन्स दोबारा वापस लेके आएंगी ब्रेन से बॉडी की तरफ. सो इट इज़ गोइंग टू टेक द effector, the response from the mixed nerve that is coming from the brain to the body, to the effectors. That may be muscles, that could be a gland. There are two types of the nerves. First one is the somatic nerve, and the second one is the autonomic nerve. What is a somatic nerve? Somatic nerve involves in the voluntary and the reflex, skeletal, muscle contraction. And what is the autonomic nerve? Autonomic nerve could be sympathetic and could be parasympathetic, that is involved in the cardiac and the smooth muscle contraction and the glandular secretion. Motor nerve is a nerve located in the central nervous system, that is the spinal cord, that sends the motor signals from the central nervous system to the muscles of the body. As I have told you before, that it is going towards the effector. This is different from the motor neuron, which includes a cell body in the branching of the dendrites. Well, you know that nerve is made up of a bundle of axons, as I was telling you before that there are many axons. Motor nerve act as an efferent nerve. That means that it carrying the information from the central nervous system towards the effectors, that is opposite to the efferent, to the sensory ones. The sensory nerves were doing what? They were carrying the information from the receptors, from the receptors to the brain, towards the brain through the mixed neurons. So these are also the nerves that serve as the both sensory and the motor neurons. There are some nerves which are called mixed neuron, which I am going to tell you in the next slide that what they are actually. They are both as sensory and the motor nerves. That is called the mixed nerves. Before that, within the motor nerve, each axon is wrapped in the endoneurium, that is also layered by the myelin sheath. I was telling you before that myelin sheath is covered on the axons, and there is the nodes of Renvier. And the bundle of axons are called fascicles, which is wrapped into the perineurium, and after that perineurium is bounded together. Matlab, many axons bundle up in one endoneurium, and after that many endoneurium layered axons, nerve fibers are then layered up in the perineurium, and after that it is covered in the epineurium. These protective tissues defend the nerves from the injury, from the pathogen, and to maintain the nerve function it is very necessary, as Allah has made us so perfect, our system so perfect that nobody could ever imagine. Layers of the connective tissues maintain the rate at which the nerve conducts the action potential. So, what is an action potential? If you guys remember, I've told you in the next lecture. In the previous lecture, sorry, in the previous lecture, we have studied what was action potential and what is the work of the action potential and how it works. I've told you before. मोटर न्यूरॉन्स जो होते हैं ये क्या करते हैं, ये स्पाइनल कॉर्ड से निकलते हैं, ठीक है, ये इफेक्टर सिस्टम बनाते हैं, ये इफरेंट होते हैं. दे ओरिजिनेट्स इन द मोटर कॉर्टेक्स ऑफ द ब्रेन, all right, and after that it runs down towards the brain stem and towards the spinal cord and exit from the spinal cord on the both sides. And motor nerves communicate with the muscle cells, and then through the motor neurons the effectors are going to respond. So the motor nerves can vary based on the subtypes of the motor neurons that are associated with. So there is some alpha neurons, some beta neurons, some gamma neurons. What are the alpha neurons? Alpha motor neurons target extrafusal muscle fiber. The motor nerves associated with these neurons innervate extrafusal skeletal muscle fibers and are responsible for the muscle contraction. So it is necessarily it is actually for the muscle contraction. These nerve fibers have the largest diameter of the motor neurons and require the highest conduction velocity of the three types. So, three of them, this require the highest conduction velocity. So after that, the beta comes. That beta motor neuron that innervate the interfacial fibers of the muscle spindles, and these nerves are responsible for signaling the slow twitch muscle fiber. As I was telling you about the action potential, it is somewhat related to that. Gamma motor neuron, alpha motor neuron is not like the gamma one. What is not similar over here is that they are not directly involved in the muscle contraction. These nerves associated with these neurons do not send the signals that directly adjust the shortening and the lengthening of the muscles. So, it is somehow indirectly connected, not direct connection. These nerves are important in keeping the muscle spindles taut. So that's it for our this lecture. Then हमारे पास आता है mixed nerve. What is a mixed nerve? I have told you before that mixed nerve is that nerve in which the sensory nerves and the motor nerves are collectively present. So, what is its function? Mixed nerves are composed of both. So, it is going to conduct both work. It is going to do both work. The sensory and the motor nerves are working. Together, the nerve make the peripheral nervous system, and as distinguished from the central nervous system, brain, and the spinal cord. What is that? There are 12 pairs of central of the cranial nerves which carry the message to and from the brain. That the spinal nerves arise from the spinal cord and pass out between the vertebrae. As you know that between the vertebrae there are 31 pairs: 8 cervical, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar, 5 sacral, and 1 coccygeal. So, the various nerve fibers and the cells that make up the autonomic nervous system innervate the glands, the heart, the blood vessels, and involuntary muscles of the internal organs.